What's happening, everybody? Today we have a very special guest. Some of you might know him as Dex. Some of you might know him as Dex in the City. Welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks so much for having me, brother. Pleasure to be here. It's been soft for a couple years. Here, last year, not a lot of people knew. In terms of numbers, it's been the worst 3 quarters in overall sales since the Lehman Brothers crash.
Aha, pay attention.
September 15th, 2008. Pay attention, guys, exactly.
What's happening, everybody? Today we have a very special guest from the other side of the country. Some of you might know him as Dex. Some of you might know him as Dex in the City. But he is the man, the myth, the legend from the East Coast that is actually from the West Coast. So Dex, welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks so much for having me, brother. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we have an interesting setup. So if you're listening to this instead of watching it, you can't see, but we have got these crazy microphones. They're 2 feet tall. We're both in chairs and we're trying to make this thing work. But the reason why I really wanted Dex to be here on this show is because the guy is very deep into real estate. And he's deep into the luxury real estate space. He works with investors. He works with developers. And he's he's taking his brand to the next level. And I wanted to get his feedback on the climate of the real estate market on the East Coast versus the West Coast, because there's definitely a shift as of 2018 in June in the real estate market. And I also wanted to get his take on social media marketing in general. So, welcome, my man.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to finally see Andy Dane Media, the headquarters, baby.
Wonderful.
I'm loving the vibe here. It's very zen.
Mm-hmm.
We've got bamboo trees
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of green.
Gotta keep it mellow.
Green's your color, man.
Dude, it's my fire color.
Green watch. We gotta get you an olive suit. I know you have dark green.
Yep.
Olive suit.
Olive. And I think crimson.
Crimson.
Crimson,
Because
the
they go
next
so well together.
My eyes.
Christmas time, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, and your eye.
My eyes.
Yeah, there we go.
I look like Santa-ish without the beard. So, walk us through the climate of the New York City, Manhattan,
Yes.
Brooklyn market right now.
It's been soft for a couple years,
Mhm.
and not a lot of people, especially since it's been super hot here last year, not a lot of people knew. In terms of numbers, it's been the worst 3 quarters in overall sales since the Lehman Brothers crash.
Aha, pay attention.
September 15th, 2008. Pay attention, guys, exactly. And that's overall sales transactions, things like that. Basically right around those numbers, if you're looking at a graph, bar graph. And then inventory is at one of the highest levels that it's been since then. And
Pay attention.
yeah, pay attention. And it has not increased since the last market report came out, Q3.
So that's interesting because you have a friend of yours, Frederick.
Mhm.
He was on a show with Gary Vee, I think maybe about a year ago. It was in New York.
Mhm.
And Gary was talking about that, it's such a hot market in Manhattan.
It has not
And Frederick was like, you're wrong.
No, it hasn't been hot since beginning of 2016, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So as agents, we've been feeling the repercussions of that, trying to sort of shift our business plan. And then a lot of the foreign money that was coming in, when the ruble was strong, a lot of the Russians that were coming in, nowhere to be found, tumbleweeds. A lot of the Asian buyers, Chinese, there's been sanctions, restrictions on them bringing their money over into the U.S., tumbleweeds.
Yep.
When I was talking to another gentleman, because a lot of the Chinese investors will look at numbers of buildings when they're looking to buy. It's based on if it's a lucky number, if it's
That's
an
right.
unlucky number. And there was a listing that I had, 888 Greenwich. It's 8 is the luckiest number in the Chinese culture, and there's 3 of them.
Mhm.
So it's a very Chinese-heavy building. In 2015, I had a listing. I showed it 40 times. 33 were the Chinese buyers, and it ended up being bought by a Chinese,
Of course.
by a Chinese person, all cash. Now, nowhere to be found.
It's
So
interesting
it's
to bring that up.
interesting.
Well, there's a huge shift in the market, and we're really feeling it here. The multifamily cap rates have been compressing for years now, and we're finally hitting a crazy plateau. On the residential side, everything. I don't care if it's 300,000 or if it's 3 to 6 to 12 million plus. It's sitting for 3 times longer than it did
Really?
12 months ago.
And is that over the last 2 quarters, you're saying?
Yeah.
So recently, okay.
Super
so
recent.
It was
So-
this summer, right? But back when we met,
Right. So
right around that time.
we pulled some numbers on June 5th that were extremely bad, and it was like a little bit scary. So we're like, so now we need 90 days of hard data. So by August, like we had the proof. Everything is sitting on market longer. Everything's taking 2 and 3 price reductions, and then it's finally either selling for a lot less or it's getting pulled off market. So, and this is across the board. So we bought heavily in Cleveland 4 years ago, and we've been buying since. But strategically, I've been slowly kind of backing off the past 6 or 7 months because I know this is coming. I've been talking about it for a year and a half. It's coming for sure. We're in the second largest growth cycle in our country's history. For everybody out there that was a junior in high school in 2008, that is now, 29, 30 years old, has a really good job, don't remember any of that. I can tell you that it happened. It was real. It was also the largest divorce rate in our country's history was 2008 and 9. It's all coming back. All the bling bling and all the cars and all the posers that were around in 2005, 6, and 7 are all here again. They just look a little different.
Times 10 with social media.
Dude, it's crazy with social media because it's got like a magnifying glass on it.
And everybody's looking at that negatively, but I'm actually freaking excited.
I'm so pumped.
Yeah.
I hate this market.
Yeah.
I love this market for all my buildings and all of the appreciation, but I hate it because the opportunities go sideways and it creates this fluff. And this whole entire market is literally being like held together by like cotton candy and bubble gum. It's not real. The money's not real. All the capital and the capitalists, half of them aren't real. The products aren't real. The people themselves aren't real.
Is there a ton of new development inventory here? Because there we have way too much. Like way too much. I think we had 5,000 apartments built last year.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So it's the same that happens every cycle. The developers build because they're getting pressure from like the shareholders, and they have to report back to the stock market. So they have to continually build, or they lose their funding. Everything goes sideways.
Yeah.
So of course they're building, and they're going to get bailed out again when they're sitting on all their debt. It's going to just be another cycle. There's so much that's being built in all cities. I was speaking at a conference in Dallas like 2 months ago, and there was so much construction, and everybody's like, it's going to keep going up forever. No, it's not. So for me, I don't know. I just, like, there's trends, and it's the same with any industry. Like, if you know what to look for, you can spot that. But if you're blindly just going down the street, you're in trouble.
And since I'm asking you this question, since I haven't been involved in the last few recessions and market downturns, was New York always like the pre-quake for it?
Yeah, so certain T1 cities were absolutely. So you've got Los Angeles, you have New York, Miami, certain like city, Dallas. There's like always these like markers.
Yeah.
And it's like the last ones to fall, you can usually tell. But here's the thing with New York City. It's the financial mecca. It just is. So when stuff's going sideways there, you better believe it's going sideways in middle America.
Yeah, and I mean, regardless of what's going on, the population's always increasing by 400,000 people per year.
Yes.
It's just getting even hotter, which I didn't think could happen. But now that I think they broke, another colleague of mine at Compass broke like a record for highest price per square foot contract within like a day.
And what's crazy about this market is, like, there's certain cities where that's going to still happen. Like, this whole thing's going to go sideways, but certain areas are still going to have high demand.
Yeah.
Silicon Valley is sliding a little bit. Cleveland. So speaking
Really?
of Amazon, Cleveland, Ohio, they announced 2 huge distribution centers in this like horrible part of Cleveland, and it's been on fire for like the past year because of it. And I think Atlanta, because what is the Super Bowl and then the Olympics? There's all this stuff that's going on like in the city, so that's going to keep it like at bay for a little bit. But I mean, across the board, I think like the real estate market in general is in trouble. Stock market's clearly in trouble. I think the student debt crisis is something that nobody's talking about, which I think is crazy. It's in the trillions.
Yes.
And I just read an article on CSNBC, I think on Sunday, how there's millions of 65-year-olds that have $60,000 or more in student debt still.
What? 65?
65 years old. So for all you youngsters out there,
What the fuck?
yeah, there's old people, and if you're 65, you're not that old. You have a lot of time left. There's
Wow.
there's people out there that still have thousands of dollars in student debt.
That I could not even imagine.
Nobody is talking about it.
Yeah.
This country as a whole has a lot of student debt. So, and there's a lot of lenders out there, and you know who you are giving loans to these folks
Yeah.
because they've got really good jobs and they're paying, getting paid like $200,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
They've got really good tax returns for 36 months, but they've got student debt they're barely paying off.
Yeah.
And they've got a leased car, and they've got their huge credit cards. But here's a mortgage for an $850,000 house that's going to lose $200,000 in equity in the next 24 months. Sorry, I get goosebumps talking about this because I know the upside. I know the opportunities that are coming, and if you're in a bad position now, it's going to sting later. So that's why I push the duplex, triplex, or fourplex vibe so hard, because if the market dips, big deal. You have 3 other people paying your mortgage. Like when you're underwater, you start fighting with your spouse over the dishes.
Mm-hmm.
Like the dumbest shit will spark massive fights. So for me, it's just the truth, and I don't want to be like all doom and gloom, but I also want to empower people to maybe take a look at what they should and shouldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with sitting out for the next 6 months to 12 months and waiting and watching, which is something you'll never hear from somebody who sells real estate for a living, because like that's how we make money is in transactions.
Mm-hmm.
But as an investor, like I don't care. Like the market's going to be the market. I'm going to react the way that I need to for my clients and for my investors.
And from a sales standpoint, doubling down, tripling down the personal branding and the video.
Yeah. So
Quadrupling down.
I got 2 deals for these spec houses that were built in Huntington Beach
Mm-hmm.
because this guy who's an interior designer been following my content on Instagram, and we were going to go meet him after this, but our time is compressed, so I'm going to have to go tomorrow. But because of my social media, like they want me to list this house and want to do all their marketing.
Yeah.
And if I sell it because of the marketing for over $3 million, I get everything over. If I sell it for 4, I get $1 million.
Love that. Neck deal.
Yeah. So there's creative developers out there that are reaching out to social media folks that are in the space heavily.
One of the biggest conversation pieces during that NASDAQ show with Carlos, since the editor of Inman was there, Inman recently put out a piece, and the research was done by Engel and Volkers, that people are now trusting influencers in the space than real estate agents.
Yep.
Yeah.
So is building a personal brand in the real estate space good idea or bad idea?
Great idea.
Is it worth the investment?
Yes, I can say yes.
So I've spent a lot of money, and let's just say that this one property is sold for $4 million. And then the developer is going to write me a check for $1 million. I'm going to pay my taxes happily. I will probably have covered my expenses for 5 years.
Oh yeah. That's the beauty of real estate, baby.
And I would love to tell you guys the deals I've got this year into my DM on Instagram that are like life-changing deals that were off market for my family and for my investors.
Amazing.
This shit is real. Like it's not going anywhere. It's not going to go back to the old way. It's over.
I just got my biggest listing of my career from basically from social media, because they feel like they know me. They see that I'm out there grinding every day, putting up stories that I'm working, because I am grinding every day, working very hard. And then from there, I have a $10 million listing on Billionaire's Row, 57th Street, New York City.
That's dope.
Yeah.
This is what I keep talking about every single day. People will follow you for 6 months or a year. They won't like anything.
Yes.
They will not leave a comment. They're these little voyeurs, which is fine. Because at some point, those voyeurs are going to start to believe you. As long as your message is pure, you're going to win.
Of course.
If you're a shyster, you're going to lose because you're going to get exposed like crazy. But you don't get a $10 million listing because like you have a cool photo in a magazine. It's because they've been able to track you as a person. They've been able to track your values, your core values. They're going to trust you with their biggest sale or purchase of their life. And I don't know, for me, I want that person to work their face off for me.
Yeah, for sure. And they can track you as well.
That's right.
Working your face off because they look at your story.
Oh, you say you work hard, doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
Like that's why I go so hard with all of my Instagram stories, because I do go hard, and I am home at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like all those things are important to me.
That's much earlier than me.
Yeah, but you know,
you have kids.
It was a choice, and so for me, believe me, that wasn't always the case. I would drive to LA at 7 o'clock at night, like to look at like a deal that was a maybe, and then I would spend 3 hours in traffic getting home.
For sure.
But you know, I have a wife and 2 kids.
Yeah, that's the one thing I can't deal with. LA.
I love you, LA, for your real estate. I hate you for your traffic. So for me, it's really important for you guys to hear that, like, you know, Dex is not just like a name tag wearing real estate agent. There's nothing wrong with that. I just think it's a little bit dated, and I think your name tag should be like digital. And I think you should be really marketing yourself on your phone, on your computer.
And your business card should be digital.
Sure.
It's gotten to the point where, and this is a goal that I set at the beginning of last year, I don't really even collect people's business cards. Like, I don't have mine on me, which I should, but...
You barely even read these.
Yeah, exactly. My goal when I'm networking with a purpose, what I call it, is to collect everybody's Instagram. And if they don't have it, then get their Facebook. Because then they fall into my ecosystem, and similar to the listing that I got, or similar to the other buyers, after they're seeing me grinding, it may not be immediately, when we talked about patience, aggressive patience earlier, but 6 months down the line, a year down the line, 2 years down the line, when they need to buy something or sell something, or their friend needs to buy something or sell something, you're the guy.
You cannot get those metrics from a billboard.
Yeah. Cannot. Or mailers.
Or mailers. Like, that's why it's imperative to capture people's email to deliver value, not to spam their email. So it's exactly like you said. Like, it's not about this business card, because the business cards that we get, I literally hand to a team member and they drop it into a software. So one thing cool about, like, you know, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter is people usually have an email that's attached to it. And it's a much faster way to get someone's response. And you know if they got it. If you send somebody a DM or a message and they respond, guess what? You can verify that they got it.
Yeah.
If I send all these mailers, I have to hope somebody actually, you know, calls.
Yeah, you have no idea.
No idea.
You have no idea. You just
know
dropped
if
a
the
grand.
dog ate
Yeah.
it. That's right.
Just dropped a grand. You have no idea. There's no ROI on it.
Yeah, and that's why, like, this all works. Social media works. Mailers work. Podcasting works. It all works. It just depends on how well do you want it to work and how much you're willing to spend to track the data.
Exactly.
So, you're here in SoCal for how long?
Another 3 days. I'm
3 days.
Downtown LA. I'm staying at Level.
Oh, nice.
You know about Level?
I do.
It's very on brand.
It is.
It's very on brand. I was like Googling.
Nice.
My brand is very much so suits and views.
Yeah, suits and views. I like that. There's like, what's that thing? Boats and hose. And then there's
Dex's suits and views.
There's Dex's suits and views. I love that movie. I was watching the clip somewhere. It's like one of my favorite movies because it's like the
fucking Catalina wine mixer.
Dude, I love Catalina wine mixer. I just love those comedians. They're absolutely incredible. So, okay, cool. So you're going to be here for 2 days, and then I'm going to probably be out of New York in, I think, a month, maybe 6 weeks at the most. And we'll have to link up out there and do some suits and views.
Oh, many views.
I'm gonna get
you know I got you.
Suit.
Yes.
Get a crimson
Let's
suit.
match.
Dude,
I'll get an olive one. I'll get an olive one because that's like my next on my repertoire.
What's that show?
That would be badass. Wait, will you be around Christmas time or like later?
I think probably after. I'm gonna try to go the week between Christmas and New Year's, which is probably hectic.
It's gonna be fucking cold.
Yeah, I know. I might do January, but it's still cold. What's that show? There's a movie. The Crimson Anchorman. He has a crimson suit.
Burgundy.
Anchorman.
Ron Burgundy.
It's Burgundy. That's right. It is Burgundy. You're right.
You know, my nickname in high school was the Crimson Chin. Do you know that show?
I did not know that. I did not know that.
So that's why I got the suit. And the first thing I did when I bought the suit, I had somebody take a picture of me and send it to all my high school basketball buddies who used to call me that.
Dude, suits and views.
Suits and views.
Don't call it a comeback with your crimson suit.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I love that you took the time out of your busy schedule and busy to come to be on this podcast and deliver value from the East Coast over here to the West Coast. We have listeners all over the planet. I think we're in 134 or 48 countries. So there's people all over the world listening to this. The real estate market is shifting, and it's not just from my point of view. Dex has seen it for almost 2 years on the East Coast and especially in New York City. So just be mindful of what's happening and don't pretend like it's not.
And what this also means is there's a huge opportunity for international investors in New York City.
Absolutely.
Because right now we're having a ton of discounts, and I just sold a property with 20% off discount.
It's massive.
It's massive for New York, which was unheard of in 2016. So don't view it as an ominous thing necessarily, but as something of great opportunity.
There's deals to be had, and this is my favorite time. And as soon as we literally had the 90-day metrics of it's a like shift, it's definitively shifted, I was ecstatic because I know the opportunities, and I know in probably 24 months I'm going to raise as much capital as I can possibly raise, and I'm going to deploy every penny into multifamily real estate.
And buy it for cents on the dollar.
Cents. And then I'm 41 as of this recording. When I'm 51, I'm going to come back to this podcast, and I'm going to do another podcast of how much was made from the day this podcast was aired to when that podcast airs. And it's probably going to be somewhere around 138 to 252 million.
I love that.
Like with
Killing
my eyes closed.
Calling it out. I love it.
Like Babe Ruth.
I love that.
I
Corner.
can call my shot.
That's awesome.
Well, you guys have an amazing day. This is going to drop very, very soon. I'm sure we're going to do some stories. Pay attention to the real estate market, to the financial market, and if you are in New York City and you're looking to buy property, investment property, find some stuff, look up Dex in the City, and you want these people know how to find you, all your handles and all that good stuff?
Dex in the City across all platforms, DEX and, not in, but and the city, YouTube channel, Facebook, Dex Lipovich, Dex at dexinthecity.com is my email, and my website is dexinthecity.com.
Dex is everywhere.
Yep.
A lot of Dexes.
A lot of Dex in the City branding.
Awesome, brother. Well, thank you again for your time, and you guys have an amazing, amazing day. Next phase is the Robin Hood of real estate. And I'm going to make money for the rich.
You're it.
And I'm going to make money for the poor. I'm doing both.
I love that.
It's like, I don't know why everybody can't have a little piece. I was raised poor. I wish my mom would have, like, she could have bought something for $200,000, like in the 80s, it'd be worth like $1 million.
Yeah, exactly.
And the whole time she'd have been living for free. Because the tenants would have covered the mortgage.
I gotta introduce you to my boss.
And you put down $20,000.
That's fucking
6 months to a year, you refi it out, you put it in a actually probably not a 5, even like a 20 or 30 year fixed. And you're done because it's still residential financing.
Up to 4 family, right?
Up to 4, yeah. 4 is the jam.
4 is the jam.
So like there's so many options.
So keep raking in commissions, save, and then when the time's right here, because it's not necessarily ready, right?
No, but it's going to be soon. And then you buy a fourplex, and then in 3 or 4 years, like you refi out $200,000, and then you go buy a house somewhere. Yeah. You're done.
Apartment.
You could buy an apartment, and you could buy like $1 million apartment, right?
Yeah. Dude, everything I like, yeah, exactly.
It's like 12.
Yeah, exactly.